Okay, what are you saying, people, and welcome back to your favorite YouTube channel. So today, guys, like always, another weekly analysis for you. On the screen other pairs that we'll be analyzing today, but make sure you do stay to the end of the video because I do have a bonus pair in store, so make sure you do stay to the end to find out which pair that is. But yeah, guys, we'll go through my trades first and then we'll get onto the video. If there's a particular pair you want to look at, feel free to skip ahead on the timestamps. But yeah, I only had one trade this week on Aodu CAD, and in fact I did have a trade from last week coming over into this week, which I held over the weekend, which we were discussing on my last video on Aodu CAD. And I actually did get a second trade on this one actually, because the trade I had coming into the week did get stopped out at break even. It was a partial win though. Price did hit a couple take profit areas coming into this first area here. So this was the entry around there last week, and coming to this second area as well, did manage to bank partials there twice. But the full target was for price to go and eventually take out this wick here. And as you can see, price is just about gone and taken out that wick by a pip or so. So the market has kind of obeyed the analysis, but this position here did get stopped out break even. So I did manage to enter second position after this big bullish candle here. Entry again was on the hourly time frame after this candle there. Stops were above these highs, and again same targets back into this area of support. I did close the trade slightly early and didn't hold to the wick areas down here. Reason being, Aodu CAD was very choppy at the time, so I didn't want to kind of overstay my welcome. And you can see price did go and hit that target. I closed the position around there. You can see price did bounce from that area and did see some upside. Didn't get into these shorts, so at that point I was kind of done with Aodu CAD. Really took some nice partials there and a nice target there as well. So I didn't really want to get in a third time, but you can see eventually the market did roll over and take up those lows. So around almost 2% with those two trades there. So happy with that with Aodu CAD. But yeah, some other pairs looking good today, especially the bonus pair, which we'll get onto at the end of the video. But yeah, let's get straight to it. So EURUSD looking bearish there, especially on FP. We did see a lot of upside this week, but I was completely erased by those three bearish candles, three daily bearish candles there. And the market is looking like we could see another rollover back down to these lows. Again, if I do zoom out and you look at the bigger trend, the market has been consistently rejecting this higher time frame trend line here. As you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So pretty insane. And the market is consistently still rejecting the same area. And again, the market in the higher time frames, monthly, weekly, dailies, all pointing to the downside. So again, as a swing trader, I'm only going to be looking for sells in this market. So with EURUSD, we had a crazy rally to the upside. Market came straight back down. That potentially could be a bit of a fake move there, tapping into the consolidation. And now we could be seeing EURUSD roll over back down into these lows here, which will be the target for me for EURUSD. So I'm looking at this head and shoulder pattern here. So if I just map it out for you guys with the left head and then potential right shoulder, and from that I'll be expecting price to come down to these lows if we indeed can snap through that neckline. But for me, for EURUSD, only looking for shorts, and as long as we don't go and run these highs over here on the left, I would expect us to come back down and take those lows out, because if we do take those highs, it looks like price is starting to create structure in that direction, which is not the best sign for the bears. But again, higher time frame is still pointing down. No need to overcomplicate it. Everything's still looking bearish. Nice level of interest here at 0.98432, and target simply back down these lows. Again, we do have an area of interest here where the market could come and react with. So do keep that in mind as an area for partials or just the target outright. Don't necessarily have to target the lows there, but that's what I would be expecting EURUSD to head to next. But yeah, everything's still looking bearish. Area of interest 0.98400, targets down at the swing lows 0.95505. But yeah, all I'm seeing is more downside for EURUSD. So let's see if we can take out those lows next week. Okay, so over to USD JPY now. So as you can see, looks like we're picking up some pace to the upside. The market is breaking outside of this consolidation here. Had a nasty fake out to the downside down the 4H there, as you can see. I did say last week, if we can clear this consolidation on the retest of that, could see some nice sells back down to the lows around this 142 area. However, we faked faked the breakout, essentially came back inside. And as you can see, we're making our way to the upside. So again, like I said, the sales were never very clean for USD JPY, since the monthly, the weekly, and the daily are all still pointing up, still showing a lot of bullish momentum in the market. So sales in these conditions will obviously be, a little bit difficult to come by. And if you do get them, you don't want to hold into those trades for too long, because as you can see, price is having a tough time heading down. So with USD JPY, again, we're still at some extreme highs. We do have the monthly, resistance here on the left, which price is starting to break through around 145. We do have these wick highs over there, which price could be looking to go and take out potentially. Again, we're just looking back, seeing where potential targets the market could get to. Doesn't have to, but potentially could be attracted to those areas since we're still pushing. As we can see on the 4H, we do have these wick highs here at 145.893. So near enough around the 146 area that the market could potentially go and take out next week if we do stay above this 4H zone. As you can see, beautiful resistance. The market was rejecting that 145 mark. Really nice wick there above the level for a failure to break through. A bit of a fake out, and now it looks like the market's comfortably above that level. So if we do stay above that, we can use this prior resistance now as support to help fund that move to the upside. You can base a stop loss off there below that level and take advantage of trades to go and basically take out that wick, because everything is still looking bullish. Monthly, weekly, daily, 4H even, all displaying higher highs and higher lows and bullish momentum. So your best bet is obviously to trade in that direction, and in this way, again, you can take advantage of that higher time frame momentum and maybe look to trail the trade and see if you can really take advantage of maybe a next swing. Who knows? Dollar's still looking strong. USD JPY still pointing up. Who knows how far this could go? So targets for next week, logical place makes sense into that wick area. We could go higher. Like I said, we do have those monthly highs the market could be attracted to, but we do have a pretty good chance of the market heading back to this area if we do stay above this level of resistance. Now at support around the 145 mark. So for next week, looking for those highs to be taken out as long as we stay above 145, and see if we can catch some more continuations for USD JPY. Okay, so now over to USD CAD. So USD CAD this week, we had some downside, but the market did recover. Again, we're still looking for the market to push higher. We do have some targets around this mark here, which is around the 1.4, just underneath the 1.4, but a big psychological level, which I do expect USD CAD to be attracted towards. So I'm still expecting this bullish trend here to continue. You can see the monthly, weekly, daily still looking bullish. So the bias hasn't really changed much for USD CAD. We did take out these lows here, but again, I was expecting this to be a little bit of a fake move in the market since momentum was still pretty bullish at the time with all this momentum here. Market did take up these lows, but as you can see, the market quickly recovered and did break back above. So I'm still expecting more more upside for USD CAD with those highs up there, but we do have to be careful of this resistance now since the market has rejected it twice and it could potentially do it a third time and see some more downside. So do be careful of that. But going into next week, we'll be looking for buys from these areas here. And if we do break lower, still be looking for buys at these lows here at 1.35. All I'm looking basically for USD CAD is that next higher low for the continuations back to 1.395 or 1.34 up at those levels there. But again, we do have to be careful of 1.38 to 50 now because the market is obviously struggling to break through that. So again, you can trade to those highs there. We can look to push the trade. It depends what you want to do. But for me, from my standpoint, USD CAD is still looking like a overall bullish market. And this low here on the left here could be the next higher low for the market for USD CAD. So for me, looking for buys at 1.36500 and also 1.35 if that level doesn't hold. But all I'm looking for is more continuations to the upside for USD CAD. So hopefully we can see some upside, break through that 1.38 to 50 level and make our way back to 1.4 for USD CAD for next week. Okay, so over to Euro Pound. So Euro Pound this week, we were talking about this daily zone here. And as you can see, the market is holding on to that level quite nicely. So I'm still bullish on euro pound, looking for more upside. I was talking last week about this monthly wick here, which I do believe will probably get filled. As long as we can stay above that level, I would expect that wick to get filled. Get underneath it, we could be looking at a bit of a reversal. So we'll keep that back on our heads just in case we do need to change our bias. But for now, 0.87 is still holding. So I'm still looking at a lot more upside for euro pound. However, you can see the market is being very, very corrective here. So because of this price action, most likely we'll have another move to the downside first before we do start seeing some more upside. So this could give us a good opportunity to actually get long on euro pound. Of course, if you're not already, to get long on euro pound and take advantage of that continuation to the upside. Again, targets do say the same. We do have the consolidation around there. I will keep an eye on these wicks there on the left as the market has shown some sign of rejection around there. We could see the market roll over again. But all in all, I am looking for a push back down, back up to 0.92, which could take its time. This is a pretty big move in the market. I know there's big candles there. Don't make it look as big, but it's a pretty big move in the market, and it could take some time if that monthly wick is going to fill. So for me, for euro pound, looking for one more downside move, very, very corrective up move there. So more than likely we will get a move to the downside first. That could give us some nice entries to take it back up again. We've got target 1 around 0.88300, target 2 that range around the 0.89500 mark, and then push it there, but we'll save that for another video. But for euro pound, as long as we hold 0.87, looking for buys and see if we can get that monthly wick fill, and see if we can get that first target 0.88300 for next week. And now on to AUD/USD. So this week, not too much. As you can see, mainly consolidation, to be fair, with AUD/USD, but momentum is still strong to the downside with this one. As you can see in the higher time frames, we've been bleeding to the downside. We're taking a bit of a breather here. It looks like the market is starting to break outside that consolidation to the downside again. We still do have those higher time frame targets. We've got the body here, that COVID, of those COVID candles, so to speak, and we've obviously got the wick here, which will eventually be the final target. But we've got the bodies here not too far away around the 0.61300 mark, which again is still the target, and we still do have a bit of room before we get there. If I do measure that, we are still looking around 200-ish pips, so definitely still trades to be taken advantage of that opportunity. So yeah, AUD/USD, for me, I do want to see the market stay outside of this range here. Getting back inside the range, things look a little bit choppy. Might catch a break and retest of this level here, something like that. But yeah, in that range, I'd rather just trade outside of that zone. Obviously, if you are looking to trade a range, this would be a nice range to trade. If you get back above, take advantage of the buys and definitely of the sells at the highs of the range, which I've got around the 0.65300 mark and also 0.63700. So feel free for that, but I like it when the market is a bit more free flowing. So if we can snap the lows of the range, that would be nice. And then looking for the retest where we can base some entries from, and yeah, continuations back down to those monthly lows at 0.61300. So for me, for AUD/USD, nothing's changed from the bias. Still overall bearish, monthly, weekly, daily, all displaying monthly bearish structure. Lower highs and lower lows. So for me, there's no real point to go against that. Obviously, day trading, you can still take advantage of those pips, but sells are always going to be your best bet in these type of market conditions. So AUD/USD still looking for us to go and reach those targets down there. It does look like the market is slightly breaking through, but I want to see a bit more of a confident breakout first before I start looking for any retest trades. But essentially, if you can break through that retest of 0.63700, targets back down there for 0.61300 for next week. Okay, so now on to NZD CAD. So NZD CAD looking similar to AUD/USD in terms of the price action, the consolidation there, and AUD and NZD are pretty similar currencies in the market anyway. But yeah, NZD CAD still looks like it's continuing to the downside. You can see the consistent lower highs the market has been printing. So again, as a trader, I'm not really looking to go against this. All I'm looking for is that next lower high. I was talking about the market tapping into the high up here and then potentially selling off did get pretty close, however didn't quite make it and then sold off beforehand, and it does look like these lows are likely to be taken out next week. So for NZD CAD, you know, all I can say right now is more downside. It would be nice if the market maybe can form a lower high before it takes out those lows, maybe pull back into this area here, and you can catch some sells to the downside into those lows. You know, that would be a nice little trade there, maybe for a day or so, or a day or two. Something like that could be a nice little idea for NZD CAD, but it's up to the market at this point. And targets beyond that point are difficult to come by. There's no real target. I'm looking at the monthly. You know, there is this kind of wick around here, which potentially the market could get to. It's still a bit far away. We are still trading in this kind of monthly support zone, so we could still bounce from that. But again, I'm not trying to predict, you know, any type of reversal until I get a sign yet. So far, there is no sign. So if NZD CAD does clean these lows out, which is pretty likely, we could just be using the psychological levels as, you know, targets. You got 0.76 there, could be a nice target. Also 0.765 just underneath. Need to be aware of that one. And you got 0.7555 there as well. So if NZD CAD does take out those lows, which is pretty likely, you can just be using the psychological levels as targets. I'm not really seeing a clear area on the left to work with. Again, if you do, according to your strategy, feel free to use that. But the psychological levels make the most sense for me. But yeah, we'll be expecting those lows to be taken out. So only good opportunity I can see with this one is if we have a bit of a pullback into this area, then sell off. But other than that, you know, it's difficult to work with because the market is a little bit ranging. So NZD CAD expecting more downside. It would be nice if you can get a retest. Let me just clean this up. It would be nice if you can get a retest of this zone here, which is around the 0.77775 level. But yeah, for me, expecting lows to be taken out and potentially 0.76 to be hit next for NZD CAD. Okay, so over to pound NZD. So this pair, a little bit choppy with this one. You can see we've had the crazy bullish momentum, but the market's still stuck at that big psychological level at 2.000. You can see on the weekly chart, I was discussing these levels last week as just levels to work with pound NZD. You've got that big psychological level at 2. You've got this level here, which the market did wick into around 1.96, 1.95, and we've got those highs there. From Russia, Ukraine around 2.04, 2.05. So this gives us quite nice levels to work with and ranges to work with for pound NZD. And it's pretty big ranges, you know, about 400 pips for that one and about 500 pips for the one above. So nice ranges to work with. And again, with this type of market structure and market conditions, there's no real trend here for pound NZD. You can see, you know, there has been a massive kind of decline, but overall since 2017, the market's just been moving sideways, hasn't done anything. So it's difficult to find, you know, good, you know, moving trades with this one, and you're best just working from level to level rather than trying to push the trade, you know, to some higher time frame structures. You know, just work with key levels and take advantage of the pips in between those ranges. And these are the ranges that I'll be looking at for pound NZD. So again, like last week, I said if we hold into this level, I would expect the market to come back down. We did see a test of this level eventually and a pretty nice bounce from that level as well. So again, with pound NZD, if we do work our way back up, you know, I would expect the market to come back down, but you can see momentum is starting to die out. So it's not a good sign for pound NZD, and this big move could actually start to slump to the downside if we don't pick up momentum again. And you know, even if we do pick up momentum, we can still take advantage of that. If we do clear this range here at 2, would expect us, if you can get the retest, to tap into that 2.0400 level there as well. So you know, either which way, we can still take advantage, you know, of the momentum if it does kick back in again for pound NZD to the upside. You can still take advantage of that break and retest into that level there around 2.05. And if you do reject it again, you can still sell the market back down and take advantage of those sells. So, you know, all in all, the kind of bias for pound NZD is just looking to play with the range. No overall direction I can see with this one. So the best thing to do is just play level to level and see what, you know, amount of pips you can squeeze from these zones. And again, you don't have to necessarily have targets at those zones. You can do halfway, wherever. You still can get, you know, 100, 200 pips from these pound NZD pairs, pound pairs in general, packed with pips. Don't really have to push the trade too far, you know, to hit 100 pips. So yeah, with pound NZD, I would focus on these areas in between. It's a little bit no man's land for me. I wouldn't look to trade in those areas. No real value there, especially where we're trading right now. So focus is around the 1.96, 1.95 mark, 2 big psychological level, and 2.04, 2.05. Those are where I will be looking for entries and rejections, so to speak, for pound NZD. But that's what I've got going ahead until next week for this one. Okay, so over to CAD Yen. So CAD Yen for this one, I was expecting more downside coming into the week, back down to some of these areas here. However, the market failed to break the low of the range and actually went to the upside. But again, you can see it was a little bit half-hearted. We were discussing this on the stream. Did see a nice breakout, was expecting the market to continue after that break and retest. However, we started to consolidate again on top of the range, which is never really a good sign. When you do see a breakout of one range, the market forms another range. It's not a good sign. You want to see momentum kick in. And the fact that we did see some nice momentum, however, it just kind of depleted a little bit, was never a good sign for CAD Yen. So with this new price action, I'm still looking for us to roll over back down to 103,800, 103.6, which is that daily level of support there. And I'm looking for us to head there this week, coming into next week. And two areas of interest I have is that prior high the market just made, and also the high of the range, which was used as support, which is now going to be a resistance again. Either one of these areas I think will give us a nice downside move. If you do break through that again, I wouldn't worry about that. As long as we can hold on to 106,600, I'll still be expecting the sellers to kick in and take control, and see some more downside for this one, and basically just see this bearish leg here, kind of stall a little bit and then continue to the downside again, which again down here could be some nice buys actually to take it back up again. But we'll get to that bit when we get there. So yeah, CAD Yen for me, bias this week is to the downside. Again, we still do have that monthly region which the market's still rejecting, still firing a lot of wicks to the upside, as you can see there. So I'm looking at a deeper pullback for this one. Could turn to reversal, could turn into just a deeper correction. Not too sure yet with CAD Yen, but we are definitely at a very important area in the monthly, and you can really see we are rejecting that area. So I do think this one could have a deeper pullback. Whether it'll break structure or not, we'll find out. But my bias for next week for CAD Yen will be to the downside, and 103,600 looks like a good little area to target. And areas of interest, we've got 106 running through there, and 106,500 as well as areas of interest. Okay, so now over to pound USD. So more upside for this one to start the week off. Then 70 euro USD, we are looking like we're rolling over. Again, the market's been bearish consistently for quite a while. We have taken out those all-time lows there, so we're still at sensitive prices for pound USD. But again, in terms of direction and everything, it's still to the downside, despite us taking out those lows. So for next week, all I can see right now is more downside, unless for some reason we see some crazy pound strength or dollar weakness, and we go and take up those highs, which could happen. Never say never. If that does happen, this would be the support level I would expect it to happen at. But in terms of the direction I'm trading and what I'll be doing is looking for shorts. I prefer Euro USD to pound USD, so that'll probably be the pair that I'd rather trade. But again, nothing really has changed in terms of the price action between them. You can still see that kind of head and shoulder pattern is still kind of there with pound USD. Not as clean as euro, but it's still the same concept. And if you can reject this level here at 1.12430, I would expect to see the next bearish leg to the downside for pound USD. And again, I wouldn't push the trade too far as well with this one. This will be a good target to have. Even this area here will be a good target. Probably wouldn't look to push it all the way down to the lows, just in case we do see a reaction, at this level in the market just, flies to the upside, coming into those sensitive prices. So yeah, pound USD for me, sell still at the best bet. I would be careful shorting into this level here, 1.105. We could see some buyers step in at that level. So, profit taking, take some partials, trader stops, whatever type of management technique you use, do look at using it around these areas, because we could see, the market react to that, to the upside, which could give us the entries we need to get involved. But again, coming back into that would be a little bit dangerous. So pound USD, again, bias still to the downside. All the higher time frames are still pointing down. Key levels of targets, we could have 1.08 and also 1.07. You look to push it further down if you want to, but those are like the most logical places to have your targets, and entries looking at 1.122 for next week for pound USD. And now on to pound CAD. So pound CAD this week reacted bearish, as you can see. Again, coming into the week, I did say we could probably see a nice reaction coming into this level here. Really key support, which broke with a lot of momentum, never got the retest of. As you can see, the market did manage to come into that area and actually had a pretty nice reaction there from pound CAD. So we're seeing some downside from that. Again, if I do zoom out onto the daily, you can see the overall structure of this one. The consistent lower highs the market has been placing. Lower high, 1, 2, 3, 4, and potentially we could see another one here. The only thing is with this, we've seen a lot of momentum here, so we could see buys stepping back into this area, which could give us another drive to the upside before we do roll over. So we can play the market both ways here with pound CAD. Obviously I would still be favoring shorts overall, but these are good areas to buy in as well. So coming into this low here, buys could look good, and also this low here as well, kind of like a very big head and shoulder pattern, if you will. Got the left shoulder, the head, which is that big move to the downside, and potentially the right shoulder at one of these areas could see a move to the upside. So for pound CAD going to next week, potential buys from 1.52 and also 1.505. But then again, coming to these areas here, I would say look to sell it again, because this well could be our next major lower high to take the market back down again. So yeah, pound CAD, like I said, you can look to play both ways, especially with the amount of pips here. You could easily get 100 pips to the upside, on the lower time frames, and still take advantage of that counter trend move, and then later on look to buy it back, sell it back down again, and just stay in tune with the higher time frames. But again, it's up to you how you want to play it. You can always just stick with the sells, or stick with the buys, or look to take advantage of both. Again, it's all about how you want to trade it and your risk management. But the way I see it for this one is that the market for me is still overall bearish. This could be the next major lower high. So the buys that do look good at these levels, I wouldn't push those trades too far, and I'll still keep an eye out for those sells for potentially market to roll back over. But even with the sells, I wouldn't push it too far. Back to basically where we came from. These levels, is probably max as far as I look to take the trade there. But yeah, that's what I've got for pound CAD. Can look to play it both ways for this one. But again, the dominant people in the market is still definitely the sellers. So that's always going to be the better trade to take. So pound CAD direction is still down, but could be seeing some temporary buys from 1.51 and also 1.505. But sales will look good from 1.53 and even back at these highs here as well at 1.549. So that's what I've got next week for pound CAD. Okay, so over to pound yen. So again, a lot of the pairs kind of did this week, start bullish and then midweek kind of, become bearish, midweek reversal, very much in play this week. But pound yen, you can still see we do have those structures there to the upside. Got that high there, the higher high, potential, what is the lower high, and potential lower high there as well for pound yen. Again, we've had the crazy move to the downside, which I'm still expecting to be a bit of a false move, and we could see the buy step back in. However, we haven't seen that impulse continuation pattern that we've been looking for pound yen. So slightly a red flag there for the upside and for the buyers in this one. So for pound yen, still looking for buyers around 160 mark, but I wouldn't push the trade too far, and we could actually see sellers step back in and probably take this lower if we don't start breaking structure to the upside for pound yen, and potentially come back to some of these areas down here at the 157 mark. So for pound yen, again, similar setup to pound CAD as well. We could see some potential buys to the upside, but they could turn temporary, and we could see the sellers take control and push this down one more time as well. So if the buyers are going to take control, we're going to start to see price rip to the upside, I do want to see these structurally being taken out. That would tell me that the buyers are back control, can look for another pullback and push the trade even further. But if we come up and start respecting, either this area or that area, pound yen could take a bigger dive to the downside. So for next week for pound yen, buys looking good coming to 160. It also lines up pretty nicely with this kind of wick kind of region on the left here, as you can see. Let me just use the zone tool. So yeah, as you can see with all those wicks there around the 160 mark, so buys do look good coming to that area, that providing some extra confluence. But again, it could just be short term coming into these areas as well, and we could make our way down for another push back into 157 as well. So do keep that in mind for the shorts as well. But that's what I've got going into next week for pound yen. And now on to gold. So gold this week, again, similar midweek reversal, big push to the upside, and the market found its high and came back down again. If you do take a look at the weekly time frame, which is where a lot of my attention is right now on gold, is the 1700 level here on the weekly. You can see very big support here in the market, now flipped as resistance. And as you can see with the weekly candle which has just closed, big wick to the upside and just closed underneath that level by the end of the week. So now we do have a good chance that the following weekly candle could become bearish and close anywhere down here potentially, or even up there. It just potentially could be bearish if price doesn't want to respect this level now. So with that in mind, again, the higher time frames are still bearish, as you can see with this momentum. So still looking for shorts overall with euro pound. Most random pair just popped in my head with gold, and still looking for some more downside, and targets for this one overall, are those lows there, but we'll take it step by step. Look at this consolidation. These lows here will be important as well, but that's the target I will be overall aiming for. So with gold, the highs I'm looking at is the highs that the market made last week, which are these highs here, 1729, and also these highs here as well, because this is where the market went and broke through that structure. So gold looking bearish to me, only interested in the sells. I know you've seen a lot of bullish momentum, but for me, I'm not really interested in that direction. If the market goes and runs through these highs and continues, then I'll start investigating and changing my bias, especially if next week does close above 1700. That's when I'll start looking for the buys. But as of right now, there's nothing telling me that I should be looking to switch my bias just yet. So yeah, for gold, expecting more downside long term, looking for us to come back down to the 1620 mark, but do keep an eye here for 1670, nice consolidation, big push to the upside. You could see the market react with that level, so that could be a nice area for targets or partials, or whatever you're looking for. But gold for me, more downside. Areas of interest, 1713, 1726 for next week. Now on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, not much this week. You can see we are kind of just a little bit of range here. To be fair, if we do zoom out, take a bigger look at the bigger picture, we are kind of in a range here for Bitcoin. But coming into the week, looking at the 4H and time frame mostly, I did say we could start off the week bullish. I said some buys would be looking good from down here. Didn't quite make that move, however. We came into this kind of area here with that wick, and then we used that as support to move to the upside. I was talking about price coming to this 18731 and then push, and then we went into the highs up here, which I said again, sales would be looking good back here for some move back down again. As you can see, looking a little bit bearish right now. So again, for Bitcoin, nothing too much has changed. The market is still displaying, attempts to go bullish. We are still seeing some impulsive price action, but we are failing to really break past this point here. So I do think for Bitcoin, probably eventually roll back over, take these lows out. And again, we do have the wick lows here. The market could be looking to go and hunt and take out there and see some more downside for Bitcoin. So going into next week, again, sell still the best bet at these highs up here, or even at this 20k area here, that broken support. That would be a nice area to buy the market back up again. I still do think buys do look okay for the short term. So even if the market does run into these lows, starts to hold them, I do think the buys will be looking good. And maybe from up there, we can then sell off, because you can see the market is still placing higher lows here. So we are still finding feet as we are We are still finding some ground as we do push up. So that's what I'm saying, buys back up into this area, especially with strong momentum. We could see another move back up into 20k, 2200, and from there we can potentially roll over after that. So going into next week, areas of interest, we've got 19k, 20k, and 2200 for just a trade from. Take advantage of these intraday, intra-week moves. No need to try and predict the next move for Bitcoin. You can, if you want to, feel free, but you don't really have to predict the market to be able to make a profit. Essentially, you just need to know good areas to buy, a good overall sense of direction, and a good place to actually exit your trade to a profit. And that's all we have here. So Bitcoin looking good for 1900, probably see a bounce from that level, and then likewise back up these levels, 20k and 2200, see some sells back down to 19. Maybe you can go take out that wick, but yeah, I wouldn't try and push it in one go. So that's what I've got for next week for Bitcoin. And last but not least, we've got our bonus pair, which is again USDCHF as it was last week. But again, the move is still very much on if we can see a pullback. So with USDCHF, again, the bias is bullish, which I was explaining last week, talking about us potentially reaching these highs. Still looking very, very likely that the market will come into these highs, maybe even break through them as well. So it could be a nice little trade to trail stops maybe, and see if you can push the trade and really take advantage of the dollar strength. But yeah, with USDCHF, you can see we've kind of got this bull-shaped price action. Market's gone from making lower lows here to making higher lows. So the market looks like it's getting ready, to pop to the upside. So I'm looking at more upside now with USDCHF as it was last week. Didn't manage to actually get an entry on this one. I was talking about this zone here, the market made that double bottom. I said if you can break above, retest it, and then continue. However, the market broke through again, formed another double bottom there, as you can see, and broke back above without the retest here. So market is still struggling at the high of this kind of range a little bit. So I'm hoping you can see one more dive to the downside, retest that structure, see that third kind of higher low. If I do connect, these points here, you can see we do have one test, second test, or third test actually, and you can say fourth test around there for the continuation higher. So nothing's changed from the bias and the direction for USDCHF. I'm just looking to see if you can get that test of that zone before we do push through. And obviously this zone does line up quite nicely, with the structure here on the left with that resistance and that support there. So I'm looking for one more down move for USDCHF. It may or may not happen. We could just break straight through, as we open up for the week. Next week, the market could still be seeing strength of dollar. Of course, the weekend's closed. The market's closed for the weekend, but currency is still being traded, so dollar could still see that strength, and we could open up pretty bullish and just break straight through. However, if we struggle at these highs, you may come down one more time for that third higher low before we do push through. So that's what I'll be hoping for USDCHF. That's like a very, very good trade if it does play through. In terms of probability, it looks very, very good. So if we do see that down move, we'll be looking to buy. And of course, first targets back at the highs of this range. Then we can look at those daily targets there around the 1.003 mark. So that's the bonus pair for the week, and see if you can get a trade with it. But yeah, guys, that is coming to the end of the video now. Hope you all enjoyed it and found that useful. Again, any bonus pairs that you want to see in the future, leave it down in the comments and I'll be sure to add it to the list. If you are enjoying the content on the channel, please be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe, share. It does really help the channel out, and hit the bell as well so you don't miss out on any uploads on the future. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching the video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.